So today I had the idea of reading other people's stories. I'm gonna make sure that my I'm gonna make sure that my I'm gonna make sure that my it seems like my voice is coming through pretty nicely. I'm gonna find some writing that I feel confident I can find some meaning in and talk about that. Okay, let's start. Um, uh, wait. Oh my God. Okay. Uh, I want to go to a different Reddit. I'm pretty sure, like, there's a lot of. I want to read something that's a little unlooked at, stuff that hasn't already got a lot of attention. And I don't really know how these Reddit subreddits work, so I'm just gonna kind of something like this, right? I don't want to read anything particularly ideological, and I want to read something that's only about 5,000 words. Smut. Somebody wrote smut. Interesting. Is my pornography good? Somebody came looking for criticism about their pornography. Hopefully, it's not like real porn, it's like art about sex, which is so different. Let's see. Oh, 200,000. My God. Okay. 60K. I'm looking for about 5,000. Um, we want to look at this. Let's see. How do I start? A man in his 30s drowning in an endless pit of shame and self prosecution. I'm having a difficult time with this word because prosecution is a very active thing. It means like I'm pursuing my own punishment. And it could be possible, but I feel like that's not what the person is really looking for. Okay. Trying to find a solution to a problem that should never existed. Interesting. Okay, it's got my attention, and this is the only the chapter one. I feel that if somebody is already calling it a chapter book, that means they feel like it's not. They don't want it to be finished, but it's its own thing. Like they're unwilling to let it be finished as it is. So I feel like I'm gonna have to argue with the writer about how finished it is. Like I'm gonna think, let's look for the meaning as it already is standing. And the author is gonna say, no, 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 no. There are so many flaws here, here, here. And um, anyway, I wanna get some bread. 1 second, I'll be right back. And maybe I will boil some water. Okay. I opened my eyes widely, quickly gasping for air. One second, so sorry. I'm just hearing my own voice a little bit too loudly. Actually, I don't know how to even change how loudly my own voice comes in. Hello? Okay, that's a little better. Did that change anything on the Twitch side of things? Hello? 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 My voice is still normal sound? My voice is still normal sound? And if I turn up my volume? And if I turn up my volume? Hello? 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 And down? Now it's down. And down. Now it's down. And down. I feel like I need it to be a little bit loud, and I feel like I need it to be a little bit loud, and I feel like I need it. Okay, whatever. Let's just go. I opened my eyes widely, quickly gasping for air, as I had just woken up from a haunting nightmare, similar to all my nights. Every single night, I'm devoured by nightmares that are slowly killing my mind. And this has been my night for weeks now. No, but for years. I'm trying to pick up on this. For weeks, no, but for years. A person is underplaying their own disease, and yet it feels like this person is quite dramatic about their own um, the intensity of the situation, and then this is a little bit performative. Like, this person is very clearly in the mood to say, "It's been forever, all my life I've been suffering," and now they almost fake the reader out to think, "No, it's just a few weeks." Actually, no, it's been for years. And I think maybe the writer started with for weeks because they want to tie it to some recent discovery rather than. Okay, let's just keep reading. Also worth noting, like the the capitalization is quite loose, and I'm wondering if that's a um, mistake or it's an artistic thing. Okay, let's see. But it's strange. I don't see monsters or spirits screaming at my face and scaring me in an obvious way of how nightmares usually go. I only see her, only Rosa, and she's always asking me the same thing while sitting on a chair, resting her chin on her palm. Why? She asks. Every time in a closed room with no windows or doors, and there's barely any light. I sit in front of her, chained, unable to move or even talk. All I can do is look at her. It's been so long since I've last seen her, but even if I manage to forget her, my dreams remind me. It's like my mind is cursing me for what I've done. Okay, wow. I sit up on the bed and looked around my room, scattered clothes, books, and empty bottles of beer and champagne. And there in the corner of the room, my desk and writings. And my regret. Wait, so, so the regret is tied to the alcohol? Uh, Alright, let's see how legitimate this alcoholism is. Okay, work. I must go to work, I said with a soft tone. My face became distorted. I hate work. I hate every single bit of it. The coworkers and how they always seem to whisper when I'm around. My boss, who seems to always have that prideful glint in his eyes, as if he's better than me. I sacrificed everything for what I'm living. Wait, I sacrificed everything for what I'm living? Okay. And now what? I see, I see. Okay, I looked up at the spinning ceiling fan, and what a horrible idea came to my mind. No, I mustn't think of that. That would simply be terrible. I see, I see. Okay. I always was the kind of person to overthink. I liked that about myself. Yet, right now it had become unbearable. I wore the clothes scattered on the ground and took my case and was ready to go to work. I went to my desk and took a brief look at my desk and writings. It was filled with wrinkled and scattered sheets of paper and notebooks. On the side of it and on the ground, a mountain of letters under the name Fiona Williams. You're talented. These were Rosa's words, and maybe my mistake was believing her words. She had her way of encouraging me to write. While looking back at it now, maybe she was the only one that loved my writings. My dreams were childish, I spoke to myself. Hmm. My dreams were childish. Okay. It feels like a lot could be done to sort of space things a little. Like, we're in a room, we just had a nightmare, we're recovering from the nightmare, we're refamiliarizing ourselves with the room that we're sort of stagnating in, and now, okay, we're trying to work things like this. I don't feel quite immersed. um let's see, like we're sort of, it is actually, I don't think, a mistake, but maybe just the spacing on the page is a little odd for me. mm. Yeah, so he just naturally flows from the sort of nightmare to his real life, remembering the sort of conflicts he has. Oh, here. So maybe here I would change the always. I would put a memory, because the memory is the thing bringing him back into his regular life. Okay, as if he's better than me. I sacrificed everything for what I'm living in. Now what? Okay, the regret. I looked up at the spinning ceiling fan, and the horrible idea came to my mind. It just, it is following the normal track, it feels like, but the words are too almost performative. Like, what a horrible idea came to my mind. Okay, well, I wore the clothes. This is, it's talking about the tendencies, but it needs to be talking about the literal sequence of a person waking up and all that. Let me check the chat. Nothing. Okay. My dreams were childish. So it goes from the work back to this sort of forgotten dream. I took one last Oh, oh, I didn't realize this Wattpad thing has the progress. Okay. I took one last look at my mirror before going out. My eyes looked terrible. Though I'm not a person to grow a beard quickly, I seem now to have grown a rather obvious looking one, though not too dense. My hair was barely any good. A flash of Rosa came to me suddenly, a core memory. I think this is very good. Like, this is how the sentences should have been. Less tendency and more immediate, since after all, the sequence is not really a tendency so much as a representation of a tendency. So, okay, a flash of Rosa came to me suddenly. A core memory, maybe. I would just take out this, like, what does it mean? Are we trying to define what a core memory is? That's gonna distract us. A flash of Rosa came to me suddenly. A core memory, maybe. Wait, does this guy? How long ago this was? Oh, 1 month. So he might still be looking for critiques. She used to hug me from behind. One time I was looking at myself in the mirror. She suddenly hugged me joyfully from behind. Wear a smile, she said. You look better when you smile. Remembering this made me smile, although it quickly faded. Oh, Rosa, maybe I hadn't noticed it before, but this looks more like a frown. Oh, thinking about looking handsome is simply idiotic, as if I'm going to see a beautiful woman or a passionate friend. That's just not true, right? I mean, like, we should be looking at, now we're looking at like a mistake in his thinking. Looking good is about your own health. Okay, I closed my eyes strongly, as if I'm trying to seal all my regrets for just one moment. I sighed slowly, then finally left my home. I just. It feels a lot like a list that's trying to be a sequence. And I think it's because while the author has some sense of how each piece is connected to the next, they don't really know. Like they haven't done that sort of philosophizing, and so things, though they have some sense, it's very hard to see it. You know. Okay. I close my eyes strongly as if I'm trying to seal all my regrets for just one moment. I sighed slowly, then finally left my home. I took a quick look at my mailbox. There was a new letter, and I knew whom it was from. Fiona Williams, or rather, my mother. Hmm. Okay, but I won't read it. I have no right. It's rushed, very rushed. Quick reveals with um, not the grounding, not for the reels to take an effect. Okay, okay, I'm ready to keep going. I would, for instance, push this down a line, you know? This is a lot here of revelation of what those previously mentioned letters are. There needs to be a line about the mother, being a friendly character, a comfort, a burden, right? It seems like it's going to be a burden, but this is not quite giving that away. More things need to be given away. A lot is withheld in a sort of naive way where it's not intentionally withheld, but it's just not not included, not not valued by the author to be written. Okay. I won't read it. I have no right. I did her wrong and went away from her for the sake of a childish dream. She still remembers me and sends me letters. But how should I write her back? Me, who, at least for what seems at this moment, has wasted his life away. Okay, are we talking about how old the character is? It needs to be. Wait, like, is the author 50 years old? That kind of thing needs to be said. You don't waste your life away at 25, right? I mean, nobody would say, I wasted my life when they're 25. You can say, I'm going to waste my life and kill myself or something like that, but not that you have already wasted your life. I have no right to read any of her words. It pains me really. I know her words are filled with so much warmth that would make me tearful in an instant, but to think of the promise I've never fulfilled to her makes me feel shameful to meet her with such an empty face. Once I'm able, I like this phrase, an empty face. I think it needs this has some artistic value that's not unraveled. It, it stays as an artistic little flair that needs to be really seen for what it is. Once I'm able to succeed, I'll definitely write her back. That's the least I can do to repay her. So now we're hopeful. It's a bit of a turn, right? A lot of zigzagging in this guy's mind. Okay, I went to work, and how much do I hate this busy road? Faces left and right, and people living their lives so loudly and happily it makes me feel weird. A kid running to his mother, a bunch of friends laughing and joking, a man smiling while drinking coffee with his friends. I look at these scenes through my tired eyes with much longing. It reminds me of a time where I was happier and much happier with her. Where I was happier, much happier with her. Missing comma, right? I wonder, when did I actually lose these feelings? The most simple of them. The ability to have a fulfilling life seems like one that I just let go of. I wonder if I could have had everything, and this almost drives me insane. The bitter taste I have in my mouth, I wonder, when did it start? As if it's a symbol to my deteriorating life. What hurts about it most is that it never goes away. It's not a symbol. What you taste in your mouth is not a symbol. What hurts? Why do I not feel that? Never. There's this constant tension about whether the writing is really about an immediate sort of experience or about the sort of psychological, you know, case. Again, I kind of wish the author committed to one or the other, you know. There's a sort of, I think it's sort of because there isn't a commitment to one or the other, there's sort of whenever one fails, the other starts up, for the missing parts of the one, the other sort of steps in, but that failure is still there. And it keeps reminding me in every single moment of my choice. Are we still talking about the bitter taste? Is this a literal bitter taste? It could be. As far as I know, the last time I've never had these recurring thoughts were when I was in my hometown sitting at the bay with Rosa, being playful, then going back to mother to eat dinner, seeing the warm smile of my father. I longed for these days I abandoned. And with each passing day, convincing myself that I did what's right becomes more and more of an impossible task. I saw and tasted color in those days, and I had a right to smile and laugh. I'm starting to feel like this story is heading towards the conclusion that this guy who left home to sort of become himself, to pursue what he could become outside of his home, is weighed down by the effort it takes to make such a decision, where what it means to really be yourself is to let go. The decision itself is still binding him to his home. And that if this story is going to arrive at a sort of release, that that the person is no longer really fighting to feel that it's right what he did, and that the decision itself is the decision itself is just an attempt to cling back to home, and that he will not really feel right so much so as he will stop asking himself what's right. I saw and tasted colors in those days, and I had a right to smile and laugh, just like these people on the street right now. In all honesty, I envy them. Mm, that's already been said, like almost verbatim. I closed my eyes with bitterness. Although envy does mean something a little different. I feel like the story is taking a wrong direction if it's really going towards envy. I mean, we started with longing, and that was definitely much. Hmm. Actually, never mind. Sorry. I closed my eyes with bitterness. Maybe I whispered to myself, no, I definitely did a terrible mistake. I gazed at the ground. What if I hadn't wrote that letter? I continued going to work, though already exhausted and ready to go back home. Time in the office moves terribly slow. I don't have any close relationships with any of my coworkers, and what's interesting here is most of the faces are similar to mine, which makes me think my terrible expression belongs here. Though I'll never be similar to these lifeless automatic corpses. I'm much better than that. One day I'll piss on all these people once I succeed. That's a lot of personality. I sat on my office's chair. Today I'm supposed to edit the magazine's article of some random Eastern Civil War. I hate to edit these types of articles. The details are explicit and grotesque. Just imagining it makes me feel sick. The latest news is the massacre of 12 civilians who have collaborated with the revolutionaries. I'm supposed to see photos and pictures of what has happened because my boss said to write honestly. What horrid crap is that? When I ask him to give me another subject, he tells me that with that look of pity and pride, no, Smith, you seem to write terrible news better than anybody else here. I can't help but curse him in my mind. I'm wondering, about the sort of Moravian, you know, critique of writing for money and him having to write about death. If that's going to come into play, although it doesn't have to. While I'm glancing at my coworkers right next to me who happily writes about the sales of a chocolate factory. Oh, Smith, my coworker greeted. Are you writing about that Civil War again? This guy again. His name is Lemon, an average-looking man at the end of his 40s with a bald head and quite a cheerful personality. Hmm. Or maybe this is how he acts. Um, This kind of has an odd contrast with his earlier accusation that everybody is similar to him. Okay, well, do. Unlike me, the guy is married with children, and this is his main job. He's one of the people I hate most here. He smiles at me and greets me acting friendly, but I can sense that hateful glint in his eyes, and I can't help but wonder why he carries this much hatred towards me. I rubbed my eyes and nodded. Oh, look at those images, he said while looking at the pictures in my desk. I saw you talking with Carol the other day. You couldn't convince him? Carol was the name of my boss. No, Lamont, I couldn't convince him. I'd hate to be you, he said understandingly. Then he glanced at my face. Haven't you slept well? Lamont said. What? I answered him. Haven't you slept well? He repeated the question. Your eyes look tired. Oh, I didn't answer for a second. Nightmares. He gave me a weird expression. Have you tried taking sleeping drugs? No. Here, he took a pill clip out and handed me two pills. If one doesn't do the trick, two would definitely do. My hands hesitated for some reason. It felt as if I actually take the pills right now. Hmm. I also have something very important away, but I decided to take them. After all, taking them is not drinking them. Why would you take the sleeping pills at work? Oh, just he took them from the guy. Thank you, I said. You're welcome, Smith. I notice you always look tired. Drink these pills, they'll help you. I used to have insomnia and they genuinely helped me. He looked at his watch and then said, Well, see you later, Smith. Time to get back to work. He then quietly left. His words made me wonder how noticeable my disturbed expression is. Because the man is in front of me is an ordinary coworker. We haven't talked much aside from the morning greeting he says to everyone, nor do I know him well. I can't call him much more than a coworker because our relationship doesn't excel that fact. So, if a person like him noticed, then how tired am I actually? And what can I do, really? She always lives in my head, and she's the reason I can't sleep well. I probably wouldn't be able to fall asleep even if I take those sleeping drugs. I'm out of options here. After a long. What's this? Oh. Hmm. Hmm. Okay. Okay, I'm gonna have one more bite. Let me see if somebody's here. After such a long wait, my work finally ended, and my time to go back home had come. And because of me sleeping so little every day, I'm barely awake at this time of day. And I weave left and right from a moment to another, and at certain moments, if I focus, I notice strangers' eyes looking weirdly at me and hear their whispers. Is he drunk? What's wrong with this fool? And how much do I want to answer them and say that there's not an ounce of alcohol in my stomach, but feeling the fatigue in my legs, thinking of the trouble with such words will result to, makes me keep my mouth sealed shut. And once I remember home, I feel a strange sense of comfort, though I definitely hate it. But I feel like there's someone patiently waiting for me there. That idea brings me the slightest feeling of comfort. And in the midst of the crowded, noisy street, I remembered Rosa and imagined how amazing it would be to bump into her in the middle of this awfully large crowd. But that would remain a fantasy I bury deep in my heart. I won't lie to myself anymore. If life gave me a second chance to make a choice, I'd choose Rosa every single time. And once I thought of these last couple of words, the terrible bitter taste in my mouth increased, because I know what I said wasn't fully true. And finally I reached home, and once I entered and before I changed my clothes, I threw myself immediately on the bed. I took a look to the right, towards my desk. A story, I mumbled. I wanted to write a story truly extraordinary, one that would change the life of whoever reads it, whoever read it. A book where events don't slow down or lose effect. That's what I want and have always wanted. I thought I had the ability to write such a story. People praised me back at home, said I would be comparable to great writers, that I would definitely become great. I believed that. I still try to do so, but with each passing day, trying to do that becomes the more difficult. I couldn't get close to writing that story no matter what in my whole life. All I wrote was scrappy, novice level works that got nowhere. Thinking about it now, the stories I wrote when I was in my hometown were much better than the ones I write today, though I rarely get an urge to write nowadays. Can I still be able to do it, Rosa? I'm too tired to think. I'll try writing tomorrow. I remember the two pills my coworker gave me. I took them out of my pocket and stared at them intently. Rosa, I whispered. Then I threw the two pills in the bin. He asked me, why? Didn't you, Rosa? I'll give you right now. I don't know. Okay, let me try to like piece together what's happening. Maybe I will start a Google Doc just to help me lay out a few thoughts, and then we'll call it a day. So, a man is in a city alone, estranged. He yearns for his home, but feels some need to get away. I feel like the story should at least have some sense of why he left home. It might not be completely accurate, and I think that that's okay. After all, it's a first person story. He's going to change that understanding of why he left home. So just some baseline would help. I mean, is he really leaving just, you know, what did he do to the woman? I mean, my best guess is that he left to be a writer and he felt like he needed to be a writer in a city far away from home. That maybe the support he was getting was actually a burden. The praise he was receiving was sort of false and a substitute for real understanding. Um, and let's see, like Rosa, this woman that he feels he needs, but who isn't there and is accessible, but through some shameful thing, like in order to access her, you would have to feeling ashamed. I'm trying to think like the destruction of this story is really, I mean, what it needs is some resolution for how this feeling of shame is not quite right. It hasn't started in the direction of resolving what was wrong. It needs that baseline of, at least what did he think he was trying to achieve by leaving home? You had this sort of vague, but what's it called? Like, anyway, a yearning for the home. This very vague and probably meaningfully vague. Something is obscure about why he wants to go back home, just as something is obscure about why he left. That kind of thing needs to be resolved, and there needs to be an entrance point into it. Something I felt was that this character isn't really solving his own problem. At this point where he says, "I don't know," that's not a real beginning to a solution. That's not an awareness of what he doesn't know. That's not an awareness of a vacancy in himself. That is a sort of answer that refuses to start to resolve things. I don't know. You know, it's not the direction of the writing is very difficult, and I think that the writer feels, there's some artistic value in dwelling in that sense of malaise, in that sense of confusion about why things are the way they are. That the art is about representing that sort of state. But I think if the artist stopped worrying about the artistic value, the writing might actually begin to resolve that sense of malaise and that resolution would give a much more meaningful answer to the malaise. I actually really feel that this is a beginning chapter. Like it hasn't even really gotten close to an ending. So, I would say, like, yeah, it needs to try and reach a resolution. It's sort of bogged down and staying bogged down. Okay, that's all I've got. Let's end it there.